On today's episode of the Real Recovery Podcast, episode number 72, we are honored to bring you the final chapter in our Founding Voices series, featuring Tony Z. Tony's journey takes us from an idyllic childhood in Oregon through the challenges of family addiction, identity, and the isolation that fueled his substance use. In this heartfelt conversation, Tony shares candidly about hitting bottom, the struggle to find meaningful community, and the healing power of music, creativity, and service. Tony and Peter share a special bond over their love of technology. Having someone to speak geek with has been a true gift for Peter and the podcast. Today, Tony is a wonderful presence in the recovery community and a valued friend to all of us at Real Recovery. Stay tuned for an episode filled with honesty, connection, and hope.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Recovery Podcast. I'm Julie, your co-host, on this journey of healing and transformation. Together with my co-host, Peter, we dive into the heart of recovery, sharing stories that resonate with courage and inspiration.
That's right, Julie. Each episode is a new chapter in this vast narrative of recovery, and we're honored to bring them to you. But keep in mind the perspectives you'll hear are for informational purposes only and may not reflect the views of the podcast or our partners.
Indeed, while these conversations can be a powerful part of your recovery toolkit, they are not substitute for professional medical advice. We encourage you to seek guidance from your healthcare provider for any treatment-related decisions.
And if you're facing an immediate crisis, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, don't hesitate to call the Recovery Crisis Line at 503-223-8569. That number is also on our website. Help is available 24/7.
Now let's begin our episode
Of recovery, real recovery. We're rolling.
Hey, Tony, glad to have you here.
Your class is lovely, as always.
Thanks, and hopefully Duke won't be a disruption.
Now that we know recording, we use our recording voices.
Oh, okay. Do I have one?
I think,
Is this it?
Second, is it?
I try to be a little sexier. I'd like to be about 5'6", 128 pounds, hair past my ass. That's my goal.
Yeah, pretty good.
Hi, Tony, and thank you for agreeing to be on our show. And yeah, if you hear dog sounds and stuff in our shows, that's because we have dogs and they are out of control. So you might hear a little jingle or a little bark or something in the background. But yeah, I'm glad you're here. I got to meet you just, I don't remember how it was, maybe a year ago. And we did some outside of the meeting events like dinners and stuff. And I enjoyed your company. And so it's cool that you're here. We get to talk to you and hear a little bit about your history and what you went through, what you did to earn your AA badge.
Everyone gets one, as we all know.
And I met you through Roger, who actually has been on our podcast already with some of the best stories. Tony and I call Roger Daddy. It's a joke. But Tony and I have the same belly button birthday, so we're Roger's twins.
Okay.
And that's how we met. We've been to a
Same
couple.
year, even?
No.
Okay.
I wish I was as young as you.
I couldn't. I think you are. We're the same age. We're twins.
Exactly. We are the same age. I love that. We are dying to hear your story. I've heard it a little bit, but not the whole thing.
Yeah. And I haven't heard it, I don't think once.
I don't know if I've heard it myself. I don't really get asked to tell my story.
Really?
And in meetings, when I'm asked to share, I don't usually tell my story. It's really easy just to have a contemporary, meaningful message without really going into much of my background. My sponsors always told me to share my story, that someone might hear something in it that's meaningful to them. And just haven't really put enough thought into it. But today we'll
delve into it.
We'll tackle that. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that what I've learned or observed in the program is people who share, a lot of times it's this abbreviated little packaged piece. And through our podcast, we hope to get a little more relaxed and full open version, because I think a lot of times people will say things when they're comfortable and they're talking about their life story that are more real or that may register with other people who've gone through the same type of situations. So I think that's important. And also different backgrounds. Everybody has a different background. So I'm curious what your background is, like what was your family life like and how you grew up and what led up to your addiction and then going into recovery.
Mm-hmm. I was born into a kind of idyllic life, living on the Willamette River in Salem, Oregon. My parents owned a restaurant in Salem called the Golden Mushroom, and it's now still a restaurant to this day. They sold it at one point. It wasn't doing so hot. I remember growing up with a lot of green grass and the river literally flowing through my backyard and my dad peeing in the yard and going out in his bathrobe, and we'd take he'd smoke cigarettes in his bathrobe and have a beer in the yard, and we'd take the canoe out and in our own yard just launch the boat right off the backyard.
Oh, wow. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I still have the canoe and I still enjoy a lot of the privileges that my folks raised me with. I lost my dad in recovery in 2003, and he got a chance to see me get better from my addiction.
Nice.
And that's the year he passed away. I spent a lot of time in hospice care with him and him telling me how proud he was to see me get better in my early recovery. Growing up, my father was an alcoholic, not self-described though, so that's just our own assessment. A doctor may have said the same thing at one point, but I never actually heard anything like that. My mother, however, described him as an alcoholic.
So you grew up in Salem,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like a fairly idyllic setting.
Indeed. Growing up, my father yelled a lot, and my sister and me decided to...
When was it that
I'm going to pull it back together here.
Was it you first tasted alcohol? What drove?
Sure. I'll get to that. I'll pull it together here. You'll see. My mom and dad divorced when I was 2.5 years old, and my mom took me out of the house. Me and my sister out of the house. My dad just yelled and drank too much, and she brought us to her own apartment. We moved around apartments a few times until I was about 5 years old, and we settled into a nice little house where I still live to this day. At age 12 or so, my dad decided to move closer to us and be in Portland to be near me and try to be a better dad and try to pull it together. He was commuting every day to Salem just to be closer to me, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to reconnect and have a meaningful relationship together that I'd been missing out on for a long time. And he didn't cut the booze. He still drank quite a bit. He always had those generic bottles of booze, the half-gallon bottles that were made of plastic and real tasty stuff if you ever tried it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And I certainly tried a lot. So I didn't start drinking a bit later. I was probably about 14 years old before I started stealing from him, stealing his cigarettes and his alcohol, his booze, and watering it down if I did tend to drink a little too much. And he didn't really cut the booze out or anything. He just at a certain point he wanted me to do all his house cleaning for him. He was just really, he didn't keep his house together, and he left like all his porno magazines everywhere. It was gross, and so it was just like a dirty bachelor pad. And I got to learning that was like the space when he was like out of town, or he had a beach house that he built himself, and he was always leaving town and going and traveling and stuff. So I learned that his house was like a place I could bring my friends and get drunk and smoke his cigarettes. And he never complained. He never even noticed. Ultimately, that was how I learned that I could drink and get away with it. And
did he ever notice he'd watered down the...
He never complained.
My parents
he must have noticed.
Although one time they asked, they noticed, because I used to do the same thing.
He just leave it out anyway. I think he just didn't care. He told me when he was young, I found a blind man that was selling alcohol. He couldn't see that he was underage, and
that's funny.
Yeah, he grew up around the Timecodes area. Yeah, I think it was around the same time that my sister, she was 7 years older than me, and when I was just 7 years old, she ran away from home and she didn't return for a few years. She had a really cool style. She was a big impression on me in my youth. When I was 12 years old, she came back to live with us, and she gave me my sense of style, and she helped me realize that it's okay to look different and be different. And she gave me my first pair of Doc Martens, and then the grunge thing happened, and the music scene in Seattle and Portland were thriving, and everybody was wearing Doc Martens and plaid shirts. And so I got pretty quickly sick of that and started wearing like loud patterned floral print shirts and pink shirts and painting my nails and just looking crazy and feeling. There were just a couple people in school that were flamboyant as I was, and we were harassed and teased and putting barrettes in our hair and called us the F word and made assumptions about who we were, our personal lives that they knew nothing about. And I quickly learned that I had community and support with the creative people in my school there were very few of, and even though I wasn't fully creative myself, they embraced me. Then some of the upperclassmen graduated, and by the time I was sophomore in high school, a lot of my friends, the people I made friends with, moved on and went to other schools, and so I felt a little bit isolated in my school, and decided to just blend in with the stoner crowd. The underclassmen, the freshmen that showed up became my new friends, and I guess I felt it was hard for me to succeed and to feel fulfilled in my life without a meaningful community. And that for me became my community. It was just smoking weed on the lawn at the Wilson High School. It's Ida B. Wells. Now they changed the name of it because it turned out Wilson was a Nazi.
Oh,
okay. Well, he wasn't literally Nazi. He had a screening of a KKK film at the White House when he was in office. So they changed the name of the school, and it's now Ida B. Wells. I guess this is a lot of information that's putting myself out there publicly, but
were you drinking during that time? As you said you were smoking pot, but were you like finding that was becoming an issue, or was it just, that's just how it is? Or
it was around then I decided I'll just smoke weed and drink, and I won't need to ever try any other drugs. And this is all I needed to be happy in my lives. And told myself I'd never use heroin. There were actually a couple of kids who, it became apparent, had been using heroin, started missing school and disappearing, and people didn't really know where they went. And those were a couple of the friends I was talking about that I lost touch with. One of them went off to Philadelphia and made an album with a really well-known artist and became like his muse. And by the time I left high school, I wasn't really, all I did was psychedelics and alcohol, and I was babysitting at my mom's office one day. She liked to have me babysit the office when they go out to drinking at wineries and stuff, and all the realtors in our office. So just leave me at the front desk while on the weekend or something, in case someone came in, they could leave their business card with me or get in touch with one of the realtors. And president of a web design company came in, and noticed I was typing fast. He said, "You type real fast." It was the summertime. He said, "How'd you like a job?" And I would be going off to college if I hadn't just taken up that job. And I said, "Sure, why not?" They paid me minimum wage and taught me Photoshop. It was version 3 at the time. It's up to 25 or something now, I think. And they taught me Photoshop, and they let me work there for minimum wage and taught me how to write HTML. And I wound up working for their graphic designer at his agency for a couple of years after that. And I was one of my few friends who didn't go to college or
those are some good skills, though.
Yeah.
Some very good transferable skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've kept it up. It's still my career. I'm a software engineer, so it's similar. But at the time, I was the only one of my friends who was really working or not moving away and going to college, or moving away and working somewhere else. So I felt pretty isolated, and really my career didn't help me form a meaningful community that I felt was meaningful enough in my life to carry me and help me feel fulfilled, like in my life. And so I found myself trying to keep in touch with some of my old friends. And at age 18, I moved out and got my own apartment. And quickly, my friends became my flat became the party place. And so my friends would show up and bring alcohol, and my roommate was still a good friend of mine in recovery, introduced me into heroin. It was then that I started doing the heavy stuff. He would disappear to his room and have the door shut for hours at a time. And I would wonder, what the heck's going on in there? I'd ask him. He'd have some strange looking friends in there with him, and a little bit older and a little bit scruffier looking. And I'd ask, what's going on in there? What's going on? He'd tell me, you don't want to know. He didn't want to influence me. He's my best friend since we're 11 years old. He was a programmer too. He still is. And I finally got him to pride. He finally budged and he told me what was going on. He said, you don't want any of this stuff. Just like in the Walk Hard movie. You want any of this stuff? I forget how it goes. Anyway, I made him let me try it. And you're just going to have to let me try it. And that's when I think it wasn't for a couple of years that I did wind up going into art school. I enrolled into college and moved out of that place and into my own place. And
So you tried it, but it didn't stick.
yeah, it was around art school. We kept in touch, and he had this cool place that he was able to somehow maintain his job. And I found out he'd been doing heroin just every day. And he said, I tried it again, and I think it was probably like, I don't know, it was a few days in a row. And just after that, I was quickly into getting the withdrawal symptoms like sleeplessness, just intense anxiety, and just flesh crawling feeling. And yes, the skin. The flesh crawling sort of symptom, and the sweats, and just the real feeling of unease. And I just couldn't go a single day without hooking up. So we became just maintenance mode, because I couldn't really afford like a high-end addiction. I couldn't afford, like, you hear these rock stars going out and just doing it dope and
Yeah.
But you
partying
had
and
to
stuff.
do
And
it so you
I was
didn't get
more-
sick.
Yeah, it was just like, I was more of a maintenance user. I couldn't get through a single day without using heroin. And it went on like that for about 2 years. At one point, I dropped out of college. I couldn't hack it. It was too much to deal with the heroin addiction and college. And I got a temp job at Coin TV. And I still remember to this day, Jeff Gianola would come over to my desk, and he didn't seem to have any idea I was a heroin user, but I bet if I reminded him, or someone, if he happens to listen to this podcast, he'll remember me. He'll say, "Oh yeah, no wonder that guy was a little different." Maybe they didn't have a lot of temp workers. I was there for about 2 months before I couldn't handle it anymore. It was just I didn't want to deal with my addiction, and I just stopped showing up one day. I literally just stopped showing up. I didn't want to get better. I just wanted to keep doing my thing. And gosh, what point did I finally get better? It went on for a while. I moved back into my mom's basement. She had a tenant, so she'd moved away. I used the basement unit. Someone else rented the upstairs unit. I started a band, and we'd rehearse in the basement, and I don't know how the heck I really maintained. I'd go to shows loaded. We'd play concerts around town, and my junkie buddy would come over and see the shows with us. And I think I was really starting to hit bottom, because I was just not really able to do anything in life and pull anything together that was meaningful or felt fulfilling. And I love that we had some great music, and I felt like I was building these connections with these bandmates, and they ultimately moved upstairs and into the unit upstairs and rented the unit. It was a band house, and we had this whole like vibe where we were just rehearsing like constantly and working on material, and because we lived together. But
What did you play an instrument
I
or?
played bass and sang, and we brought in another singer too, and wrote some material where she was lead singer. And I was hitting bottom though. At the same time all this was going on, I just couldn't bring anything together. Like it was great, like we were doing music, and that was a highlight a high point for me, but I was really being enabled by having a place to live for basically free because it was my mom's place, and also just not really playing anything meaningful together. I think you hear about like, I hear people say like low bottom alcoholism or low bottom. Sometimes I like to think I have a high bottom because I've never eaten anyone's face or anything, but I had a low bottom because I remember literally drinking a bottle full of spit. My drummer's spit. He was a tobacco user, and he would spit his tobacco into an empty beer bottle and then put them next to all the other beer bottles that were full of beer. One day I picked up one of his beer bottles and literally took a chunk of his tobacco spit. And that was probably a memorable point of my bottle. There's worse stuff too. I had misgivings with my friends. I broke some of my friends' stuff by accident, or I lost it, or they thought I'd stolen their stuff, and the rumors were going around that I was a junkie or whatever, and they thought I'd stolen their stuff, and some of my stuff got stolen, some of my favorite records, and just lost a lot of friends. Just relationship stuff and cheating and just not pretty. There's people do stuff, they regrettable sex and all that sad stuff. And stuff like that goes with my low bottom. And I think it was around then that I decided to tell my mom. I didn't know how to get clean. It was my friend Mike that introduced me to heroin, introduced me to AA, and I came to him and I said, I don't know what's going on. I can't stop using. I can't go a day without using heroin. And he said, you got to go to AA and just go to a meeting. And so I went to a meeting, and I was loaded, or I wasn't loaded, but I was not able to get past a day sober. They say, don't drink between meetings. Just come to a meeting every day. Don't drink between meetings. It's that easy. And I'm like, not that easy for me.
And you were drinking and using.
Yeah, I couldn't get through a day without using. They say don't come to a meeting every day and don't use between meetings.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's no way I couldn't do it. I was like, what's going on? I don't know how to do this stuff. I'm gonna need something more serious. And my friend Mike says, you need to go to detox. And I thought maybe I could just wean myself off of it and just use a little by lesser every day, but it just wasn't working. I could never wean myself off of it. And so I showed up at Hooper. Everybody's heard of Hooper, right? Portland's
been there actually.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
I've chaired a few meetings there.
Really? I want to do that.
During COVID, I did Friday nights there for 6 months.
Ooh, I want to go.
With Kevin in our group and Bill L., the older guy, Bill L. Yeah.
H&M.
He talked me into it. I did it every Friday. Yeah, Friday nights.
H&M?
What?
Does they call it hospitals and institutions as part of outreach to treatment centers?
Bill L. asked me to do it with Kevin, and I said yes.
Cool.
So we did it online because of COVID, but we did it on Friday nights. Hooper's actually one of the places I haven't been. You haven't been to prison. Like you said, high bottom, low bottom.
Oh, yeah.
I know that for me, knowing people, especially in the escort service, there was one lady who did heroin, and she would physically get sick if she didn't get high. Mm-hmm. I saw her physically get sick. And same in jail. There was someone coming off of heroin in jail, and it was, luckily, seeing them come off it was the scariest thing I ever saw, so I never wanted to use it. Mm-hmm. Meth, when you come off, my drug of choice, intravenously, you sleep a lot and you eat a lot, and you're tired. I know with heroin, the physical makeup of it, you can touch someone and they hurt. So it's one of the hardest drugs to come off of.
That's what they say. And I never did have DTs from alcohol, but understand that can be deadly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I used weed to get off the meth. literally.
Is that medical advice?
I'm going to tell you, actually, it was. So, no, long story short, when I got pregnant with my daughter, I went to the doctor and he said I had two choices. I either stop using or terminate my pregnancy. So I stopped using and I went back a month later and I'd gained 35 pounds. And he said, you look amazing. And I told him, I said, I've smoked some weed. And he says, it's much better than using meth. Yeah.
The lesser of the evils.
Yeah, that's what he said. And he said, and I said, am I okay? And he said, we'll get off that next. But for right now, you're okay.
Look at you now.
Yeah. Nothing. I get high off of soda pop, for real. If I have a Coca-Cola, the caffeine is,
I've been brewing yerba mate.
Oh, yeah.
With the whole leaf, though. So, I'll just give these bags a leaf and good stuff.
Yeah, it's supposed to be good for your mood. It's
all
a good
natural.
mood enhancer. Natural.
Yeah.
Not addictive.
there you go.
You were in Hooper, and that's where you got
let
treatment.
me get back. I showed up at Hooper 6 a.m, 2 days in a row. They wouldn't take me. They said, we're full. Come back tomorrow.
Oh, my gosh.
And I guess that's, to this day, still a problem. There was just not enough treatment, public treatment centers. And I had health insurance at the time, and it didn't even cross my mind
that there wouldn't be someplace available.
Yeah, or it didn't even cross my mind that I could just call my doctor and be like, I need to go to treatment. I was just that, like, out of it or naive or whatever, ignorant. I don't know. I just thought, I just have to do what people tell me. I don't know what to do. I couldn't even imagine. I was just like set in my way. I, stopped to think about it. And so what I did was I realized, I guess at some point I just finally realized, I have health insurance. Why? But in order to go, I decided I had to tell my mom. I tell her I needed help. And so I did. I called my mom up and said, Mom, I need to do this treatment thing. I need to take the medication my doctor prescribed me to detox from heroin. The doctor said, you can go into inpatient detox or you can do it at home. And so I said, I'll do it at home, and called my mom and said, I need to come stay with you for a few days. And it took 7 days to detox. And the doctor assisted me with the medication I would need to not go through those immense withdrawals. Yeah, the pain. And so I didn't really have to suffer immensely like you're talking about, Julie. Like, I didn't have to have that immense pain. Like, I was too afraid to even attempt it for 2 entire years. And I wasn't an IV user either. I never touched an IV. I always told myself, if I ever put a needle on my arm, I'm probably going to kill myself that way. I mean, either accidentally or intentionally, who knows?
My daughter's father died that way, accidentally.
Oh, wow.
So I understand. Yeah. It's okay. It made me even stronger to do the right thing so that she had one parent that was definitely sober. I'm lucky. My daughter's 32 and she's never seen me on a drug. So I'm really blessed.
That is blessed. And so after the detox, I checked into inpatient, the 2-week inpatient through health insurance. But the Seventh-day Adventist Medical Center is where they referred me, which is pretty close out here, actually. It's more 205 out here. And I went 72 hours without sleep because they would not give me any medication to aid my withdrawals. All they would give me is Benadryl to try to sleep, and it didn't work at all. I went 72 entire hours without sleep, and I'd go to I just remember going to the group therapy sessions. They had the sessions we were supposed to go to, and I was there voluntarily. I could have walked out of there, but I knew I needed to be there, and so I remember just like curling, literally. I couldn't sit in my seat. I remember crawling up on the floor and standing in the corner of the room, trying to participate in the sessions, but just being in, like you said, like your skin's in pain. I look at my hands and hold up my hands and notice that they were just red. My hands were just red and like throbbing, and just couldn't figure out how to curb the pain. And After about 72 hours, it started easing up, and I remember getting a night of 3 hours of sleep. I remember that was just like so amazing. I couldn't believe it. And so many weird symptoms and withdrawals. I remember just waking up and doing jumping jacks, trying to get back to sleep. I'm like, 3 hours is not enough sleep. I need more sleep. I just started doing push-ups or something, like thinking, okay, this is the only way I'm going to be able to
exhaust
start
yourself.
to feel better and get some endorphins or something to feel better, because my brain just wasn't doing the chemical stuff it was supposed to be doing to help me feel okay. But it just gave me like the slightest bit of relief to do a little bit of exercise. And to this day, that's one of the best ways for me to feel a little bit better sometimes if I'm not feeling so hot. And it was there that I was introduced to 12 steps and recovery. I think that's a way a lot of people get introduced to the program, to recovery. There's different alternatives to 12 steps, but I found the 12 steps and I stuck with them. They said do 90 meetings in 90 days. And I did that.
It's my favorite saying. I do it all the time. There'll be somebody that relapses in our group and I'll be like, let's do 90 and 90. And my new sponsee, same thing, 90 and 90. She didn't make it the 90, but I made 89 out of 90. And I swear every time it does me more good than the person almost. But I think the 90 and 90 and reading page 86 through 88 are some of the biggest blessings in this world.
Yeah, the 80 reading those pages were one of my sponsors' first directions for my morning meditation.
I can almost recite it to you. Upon awakening.
Upon awakening.
There you go. But
and then what's the next?
We try to change our attitude for the upcoming day, which I need on a good day, especially if I'm working.
Remove our self-pity, remove our self.
It's right there beside my desk. Do you see how close it is?
Yeah, interesting. I hear a lot of people say AA is a shame-based program. People or they'll call us a cult. And I think when I'm reading through that, I think, okay, I guess I could see how they could get that idea before. If someone, without really considering what the meaning is for me, when we remove our self-pity and self-interest,
self-seeking,
I think I turn it into a positive. Rather than removing something, I'm actually adding something. What do I really want to manifest today? When I do my morning meditation, I want to be, I want abundance. I want love. I want motivation. I want energy. Okay. These are things that maybe there's some self-interest in there, but it's also a giving thing. If I have energy, I could be more giving.
Right.
Do a lot of community work. I don't think you're for abundance or energy. I actually don't think it's self-seeking. You're one of the least self-seeking person I've met.
Yeah. And
your give back is good.
That embodies my morning meditation. When I read 86 to 88, removing my self-pity, these are the ways I'm trying to reprogram my mind using these kinds of positive words and positive self-talk. It sounds so cheesy to someone who's like coming into this, I've done all these different self-help things and I've heard all that stuff before, but man, this stuff really works for me anyway. I don't know.
It's only cheesy if you haven't done it, right? It is. I don't think it's cheesy once you receive it. And I also think there's sobriety, right? Where you don't use drugs. And then I think there's recovery, where you do 86 through 88. And there's been years when I was focused on my career and being the best mom and going to a meeting and just on that borderline of sobriety to recovery, right? And then there's the last years where literally when my sponsor died and I got back with Dawn, where recovery came into my soul. Does that make sense? And I didn't sponsor for a long time. I was very selfish with my sobriety because the newcomers scared me. I've never to this day in my recovery gone around anyone using. If somebody's relapsing, I'm not your girl. I'll see you at a meeting when you're trying to get it back together. I can love you from then. I can do gratitude lists with you. I can do 90 and 90 with you, but I don't go around anyone using. That's how I protect my sobriety. That's what works for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's only cheesy until you do it. You know what I'm saying? And then I think it becomes a way of life where it talks about what is foreign at the beginning naturally become your thought process.
Oh, intuitive way, intuitive thought or action.
Exactly.
How does that go? I forget.
But you're on the money. You're exactly what used to baffle us will now become an intuitive way of thinking.
That's exactly what I'm talking about too.
Yeah.
That's part of the 86 to 88, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. It's right there in that reading. And for instance, when I was on a job hunt or something, that was how I'd psych myself out to pump myself up for an interview or something like that. As I'd wake up and I'd read that, and then immediately after I close the book, I'd go into a 10-minute meditation, just using this kind of cheesy positive self-talk.
Yeah.
And it really freaking works, man.
And I meditate every day and sometimes more than once, because when I'm getting into that mindset and that committee starts to talk in my head, that's how
the
I
shitty
deal with
committee,
it.
Yeah.
The self-pity committee.
Well, the reason why the books are so close to my desk, I truly do get sometimes on the job. And I literally every morning before I start work, I read that daily reflections and I try to apply it to me. And then if I'm having a bad day, I will literally pick up the book, and you can change your attitude any time in the day. And I will read that page and try to start over again.
Yeah.
I won't say that I'm a master at it because I'm not. It's something.
Progress, not perfection.
Thank God. If it isn't progress, not perfection, I'd have been kicked out a long time ago.
So when you started going to the meetings, did you start with the group that?
Oh, I started out on the Zoom meetings. It was the the original meetings I went to were you pick up a directory printed. It was 2003. I went to do an Oxford House after that on 60th and Glacier. It's probably still an alcohol detox. At Oxford House to this day, for all I know. But I might go back and visit them one of these days. I wound up relapsing in there. I started driving. My sponsor advised me to. I went to Night Owls. It's moved around. I used to be in the Auto Club.
Oh, yeah.
That was my home group. We were a wild bunch. We'd go out and in the middle of the night, walking through the woods, pitch black with our flashlights, and like stumbling over each other and do all kinds of fun stuff like that, or drink coffee at midnight and just goofy stuff like that, and smoke way too many cigarettes. And my sponsor was a cab driver. He told me to get a job driving a cab, so I did. And I'd drive drunks home, and they'd barf in my backseat. And one day a guy tried to pay me in crack. I said cash only. He had a sex worker with him. I dropped him off in Old Town. It was like noon on a weekday, and he paid me in cash. He got out of the car, and I guess it was closer to the end of the day, but at the end of the night, I was vacuuming it out, and I found a crack rock in the back of my cab, and that was my first relapse. I took it into my Oxford house. It was not worth it. I was high for 5 minutes. It wasn't worth it, but I kept it to myself. I didn't want to get kicked out of there, so I lied about it. I didn't tell anyone, and I went back, and after I moved out, I made my amends, and I said, sorry, you guys, I got to complain. I came to their business meeting, and they were like, you were a good housemate. You're doing recovery. We're proud of you. We're glad you got honest with us. And that's when I hear someone say this is a shame-based program, I just feel like maybe they just haven't experienced it, or I remember feeling shame and coming into the meetings and feeling like I was the only one who couldn't figure it out, or feeling ashamed about it. But if listening to what people say, people are encouraging and positive. And if someone's not getting it, we're encouraging, and we say keep coming back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we share equally. And if someone's struggling, we bring them closer. And it's tough stuff. Have you ever heard alcoholism is a disease? I don't know. I guess Mitch Hedberg said that alcoholism is a disease, but it's the only disease for which you can be yelled at.
Very true.
Like, you don't say, what the fuck? Why did you go out drinking again?
Yeah, you don't see that.
You don't say, what the fuck? Why did he go get cancer again?
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous.
It is. Yeah.
I took a turn there.
It's okay.
But yeah, it's been a journey. I went back out. I got stuck. I got a programming job at the prestigious printing company in town, the higher end printing company in town. And I don't know, my superior or whatever you want to call it, like the team lead guy was like a really functional alcoholic. I don't know if you call it functional when you're literally like barfing in the gutter and driving home.
He was functional in that he showed up to work.
I don't know how he drove so drunk, but he did. And that was when I was introduced to the gay clubs too. That was fun. So I'd go out drinking with my superior, for lack of better words. And I convinced myself that I could drink again functionally after 7 years of sobriety. In that job, I decided that I remember going out drinking with him and staying sober and saying, I'm just going to keep doing recovery. And I wasn't going to meetings or calling my sponsor. And after a few times, I was like, I'm just going to be a casual drinker again. And I thought that would work. And my ego got the best of me. I thought, even after I'd learned how well recovery worked for me, I would just keep the parts of it that were like the meditation and keep all the benefits and just go back to casually drinking again. What ultimately happened was I began abusing my prescriptions, and my doctor allowed me to do it. They would just give me way more meds than I needed. They were giving me oxycodone and stuff that is really bad for a heroin addict. Yeah, they could have gotten away with much, much less than they were giving me, or an alternative medication. And they knew I was an addict in recovery. What ultimately happened was I became a daily heavy drug user again on prescription meds and totally abandoned my recovery and wound up back in the same patterns. And it's really weird what happens when you learn all the useful tools. When I learned all the useful tools of recovery,
you can't forget them.
Convinced myself they didn't work. But yeah, I remember them. I took parts of it and kept parts of it and just convinced myself this is okay. I just kept. It's weird how I reason with myself, but ultimately, after a 10-year marriage ending in divorce, and the onset of the pandemic and riots happening in Portland. I don't know if you remember near the beginning of there were protests. There were also a couple of incidents that were apparently ended in, I don't know if they ended in riots or something like that, but they ended with curfews. I just remember the police calling for curfew, and it was right then that my 10-year marriage came to an end, and my ex-wife had checked into a hotel downtown, the Benson Hotel, and a curfew was called on the same night, and the pandemic had just started. There was like a cruise ship in Italy that had been quarantined or something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody on board had COVID, and I guess it was 2020. It was like March 2020 or somewhere around there. I think that was a particularly crazy, difficult night for me. I remember my ex-wife was like gone for the first night apart for 10 years. We spent plenty of nights apart, but of course, on this particular night, it was particularly harrowing because all this other crazy stuff was going on.
Yeah.
They were saying, be in your homes by 8 p.m. And that was just a really unusual. I just remember feeling, okay, this is how the world ends. This is what the end of the world looks like. And I had already been thinking about world-ending scenarios for the past 10 years or so, but this was like, okay, this is how it ends. That's how it felt anyway. I knew like literally it wasn't actually ending. I was thinking, okay, this is probably the end of my addiction. I had been abusing my medication, my prescriptions big time, and my brain chemicals were leading me into extreme panic attacks that had me. I was jobless. I'd been jobless for 6 years because my medication addiction had led me into pattern where I thought I was being productive with pet projects that I've been working on that weren't paid or that weren't resulting in productive any kind of a meaningful outcome or presentable product. And though I had built plenty of skill in that time and learned a lot of new skills, I hadn't actually brought it to fruition to anything meaningful. And it was around that I just broke. Like I literally just broke, and there wasn't anything like left for me to do. And I just carried on for a while alone, and I started calling my mom a lot and just telling her, I don't know what the heck to do. She was really encouraging and just told me to keep believing in myself and look for work. I'll be happy if I get a job. And you know what I ultimately did was I got into another relationship. I did probably the worst possible thing, but I got into a relationship with someone that I knew from AA from 15 years prior, and I dragged her into my miserable world.
Oh boy.
This was just 2020, and I think it was about after 3 months into that relationship, we were spending probably 3 or 4 nights a week together, and I told her, well, I'm going to get sober. That's it. I'm going to ditch my pills. And
Now, was she in the program?
Yeah. And so I ditched my pills and poured out my beer, and I asked someone on Reddit to be my sponsor. Someone who was willing to answer the phone every day, read with me all over again. Started back reading the big book all over again. The first 164 pages with my sponsor, and calling him every single day. And we'd go to Zoom meetings together. He told me to get a service position, and so I got a service position making coffee in a Zoom meeting. Go figure how that works. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, what?
I was going to say, that's like when I volunteer to clean cups online.
I was just thinking of the same thing.
Every time they'd say, does anyone want to clean coffee cups? And I would be like, and now they say, does anyone want to tidy the bathroom? And I'd raise my hand knowing I'm going to tidy my own bathroom at home for me. Yeah.
I thought I was so clever. I thought I came up with that joke.
I volunteer all the time, but it backfired because then I went to a meeting in person and they said, oh, you always volunteer to do the coffee cups online. Here you go.
So here you go.
And so I had to do them like 6 days in a row.
And clean the toilet.
So I never volunteered online again.
So I would make my coffee and I just point the camera out and say, here's your coffee. No, I think I got a position being a Zoom host or something like that on a meeting that meets every single day. And so I did that. And he told me to try to get to meetings in person, and it just wasn't feasible for me at the time because of concerns of COVID. Exposing people to COVID was a concern where my partner was working at the time. And so I avoided in-person meetings, but I stayed sober. And by the time they started figuring out, the CDC started figuring out, it's probably okay to be in person a little bit outdoors and stuff like that. And so I started looking for outdoor meetings, but then it just became, I really wanted to connect with people in real meet space, as they say, or in person. And so I went to Lunch Bunch, and I just decided, I remember seeing Lunch Bunch in the directory like 20 years ago, it's been around.
I've been going to Lunch Bunch for almost 27 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So, it's been around a long time.
Yeah. I remember seeing the name of the directory, and I just never managed to get to it until finally I just decided to go. And then I saw it's a queer meeting, and I decided that I wanted that because I remember just getting feeling so welcome there and feeling like people really reach out there. And
it might be labeled as an LBGTQ whatever meeting.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, even 27 years ago, we had this guy, his name was Pat O.D., right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a prominent businessman. And I think he went to our meeting, one, so his friends wouldn't see him in AA. Mm-hmm. And two, he literally stayed there because he felt comfortable. We've had something of everything, which I think it just should say everyone welcome. Mm-hmm. Because as you notice today, there It is the most diversified meeting I've ever been to. It is the most comfortable meeting I've ever been to. And I think it doesn't matter what you classify by or whatever, that meeting will welcome you. And there's Alcoholics Anonymous meetings where all you can talk about is alcohol, right? And then there's CMA meetings where all you can talk about is meth. In our meeting, I feel you can just talk about whatever and come for the recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw on the directory, I also saw it's an open meeting. I knew that open meeting means everyone's welcome, of course, but I get a real inviting feeling from the queer meetings. They especially Hush Push. But I think, Julie, you were a really big part of that too. And at first, I didn't really feel totally comfortable because I didn't know what to expect. And sometimes, some days there's just a few people there. Some days it's just.
I know what day you're talking about. In the basement.
Oh yeah.
And I was so happy to see him not online but in person.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, it's good to see you.
That's right. And that particular day, I was feeling really down the dumps because I'd just come out of I just ended my recovery relationship had just come to an end, and I still hadn't found my footing yet. I was feeling still really alone and scared. And
I remember that day actually very well.
Yeah. And Julie, you came up to me. I just showed up at the meeting every day like I had been. And that particular day, I just remember you came in maybe like a minute late, and I was sitting there, and Julia came walking in, just looked right at me and came walking right by me, right up to me. And I think you fist bumped me and you whispered in my ear and you said, "I'm so glad to see you here today. And I'm so happy you're here." And I could tell you really meant it. And
you're gonna make me cry because I did.
And and I literally started crying right then and there because I felt so grateful, like the immense gratitude I feel just feeling seeking. I call AA my family because I abandoned my friends in my life in my isolation. When I say I abandoned them because I chose my addiction and I chose my new family. And they say family because in a way, we're better than family because we choose each other.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
It's my chosen family.
Yes.
I am an only child and I never had a brother until Peter. Seriously, I think it was Father's Day dinner.
Oh, see.
And Peter said, I was talking about something we hadn't done. And he said, someday I want to do a podcast. And I was like, oh, I'll do that with you. And
cool. Here we are.
Like, what is crazy is that I am the least technological person. You know, I ran Sprint for almost 20 years. Doesn't mean I program the phones. It means I talked to the crazy person at the beach that had no service. And I don't set up the equipment at my job now. I have an IT department, but Peter is so technological and I am so comfortable with people. And the combination, and then it's crazy because it takes me a minute to feel comfortable with people sometimes, as far as my inner circle. I can go into a meeting and say hi to anybody and feel comfortable, but my inner circle. And when I met Peter, by the time we were to the meeting in the car, I loved him. And it's just crazy, but it is my chosen family too. And it's sacred. It is sacred. Like Roger, we joke around and we call him Daddy. Mm-hmm. When I was working too much, literally 65, 70 hours a week, Roger came to see me at work because I couldn't make it to a meeting. And I will never forget that act of kindness. Mm-hmm. Even like sometimes he wants me to do too much and I have to whatever. But he really looked out for me. The same with Don. They came to see me at work and made sure I was okay. And that was probably the most difficult year in my recovery. Because I was working so much and I couldn't go to as many meetings. And I got mentally sick, not only physically. Yeah, I really did.
Yeah, Roger was there for me too in my moments of pain and come over, I'd say, well, I'd call them up and I'd say, I need to visit with someone today because I've just been isolated and just coming out of the addiction is painful. Just even in the first year can be rough for me. And Roger was there for me. I would
He's a good guy.
call up and say, I usually don't make plans except a day in advance. I don't do spur of the moment, but I'm going shopping in your neighborhood. He'd come to the Freddy's by my house and I'd ride my bike down there and we'd get coffee and make crude jokes and I'd call him daddy. He just thought that was hilarious. At first he was really pissed off at me for calling him that.
It's my favorite, just so you know. And then because Tony called him daddy, I had to start calling him daddy too.
Yeah.
And one night
everyone's daddy.
And we were at dinner one night and we were going by Hoda's restaurant. And he was like, have you ever been to Hoda's? And I was like, Daddy's a hoe. And me and Tony were cracking up that night. It was perfect. And I've called him Daddy since because it's a term of endearment in a refined way. Yeah.
Like what Roger did and you, we talk about service, and I feel like the service, people think, oh, you have secretary or make the coffee. But I think there's more than that service. I think stopping by and keeping you company or meeting up with you, going up to someone and giving them a hug and saying, welcome, I'm glad you're here. Those are all little parts of service. And even this podcast, being able to share this out there. This is our way. They say, find your way. So this is what do I have? I have these skills. How can I use them to give back to our community? What are some of the things that you do in service? Because I know that you do different things and are involved.
Thanks for asking. Yeah, you're right.
Vision right now.
Is just one thing, and we're of service when we're not even aware of it, just by interactions with people. And if we feel a meaningful connection with someone, we've probably been of service. And I've been doing outreach, which is interesting lately in the street outreach.
Oh, okay.
Working with just trying to bring resources and supplies and things around to folks in the street who are unhoused. And it's been interesting. Most of them, I don't know the statistics, but I think many of them are in active addiction. And I don't,
Portland right now.
I'm safe because I don't go alone or anything. So we go in teams. And
Is this
Narcan and food and socks and clothes and blankets. And it's Southwest Outreach. It's not an officially organized group. It's just some mostly retired folks around the neighborhood that they're introducing me to different camps and stuff around the neighborhood. And that's interesting. I don't push recovery on them. Someone's hurting, I say, I've been there. I'm better. I've found a way to feel better and get better. And
how valuable is that?
Yeah, and I haven't really had a chance to see it make a difference yet. See, time will tell.
You also host the Sunday meeting. I think you're of service that way.
Right.
I've seen you Zoom host again. I've seen Roger, Tony A, Tony Z. Just the A to Z Tonys. We never know who's going to make it out or make it back. I choose not to leave. That's what works for me. I just stay. I'm scared. I am literally scared to leave the program. Portland being number one city in addiction and 50th in treatment services available. And we are right now have the highest homeless rate we've ever had in Portland. So when you get a moment of clarity, like you said, and you go to Hooper and you're turned down because there's too many, not everybody has that moment of clarity twice, right? In a perfect world, someone would have a moment of clarity and be able to go into treatment. That's not always possible. We do absolutely need more places. We'll get there, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I'm really glad I found recovery again. I was able to pull my career back together. I was able to make some new friends that I call my family now.
You're in a happy new relationship.
I was able to resume bonds with old friends and real family, extend blood, whatever you want to call it, nuclear family, and
And Tony just had a birthday 2 weeks ago.
This program is, I've been working it by the book with the old school way, but also doing some of my own way. I keep it secular. I don't know what's out there, and I use the word God because people know what I'm talking about when I say God, but inside my belief is different. It's my own individual experience, and I do listen to when uncanny messages appear before me. When I do, those do reach me. I have profound experiences and been brought to tears by things that just seemed to be otherworldly. I could go into stuff like that, but it sounds real out there to anyone else. So I keep internalizing. If in a one-on-one interaction, if someone wants to talk about metaphysical stuff, I'll tell you all about what's happened to me that's made me believe that what we're doing is meaningful and real. And
I think the key is that it's yours personally. Like that God is, as we say, the word God, because people understand it, but the actual spirituality behind it is your own.
And I think we all have our own attributes as far as that goes. And like I was saying, you just had a birthday, celebrating 3 or 4 years.
That's right, 3 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
No booze, drugs, cigarettes, nothing. Okay, part of this program doesn't say no cigarettes, but
It's really
I quit. It feels amazing.
It's really funny. So I got sober in 97 and I quit cigarettes in 98. I only smoked them for a short time. But in that bottom cabinet over there, I keep a clove cigarette. I think it's the worst tasting thing there ever was. And this one is very old. And it's my relapse plan. Because I just know if I smoke it, I'll be like, right? And it'll, But I haven't smoked cigarettes for 26 years. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We used to sit and smoke clove cigarettes outside of the Howling Frog at 3 a.m. and
City nightclub.
Cooch, Northwest Cooch and South 3rd or so. I'm sorry.
There you go.
No, I never made it into the City nightclub. All my friends went there.
Yeah, it was my
hang out.
Yeah.
It was my education. Yeah, the emancipation.
Cafe?
What?
Did you ever go to X-Ray Cafe?
No, I was going to Roxy's.
Oh,
in
Roxy's.
between the Silverado and the Family Zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just closed. But I want to thank you for coming here today.
Yeah.
And taking part of your beautiful sunshine day. We haven't heard her, but April has been very supporting sitting here, dealing with my dog, and very supportive. Thank you for being here. You've been quieter than the dog. It's been great. I just really appreciate you coming.
Anything else? Parting words?
I'm just so grateful to be here and have you guys in my life. I'm grateful when people send me gratitude lists. You ever get those?
Julie sends
them to you. You send them to me. I send them to you, and you remind me to be grateful. And
I'm very grateful.
I'm grateful for gratitude.
Amen. I agree with you.
If everyone's grateful for gratitude, there must be some sort of amplifying effect that just duplicates and replicates.
And actually have some of these principles and stuff in their life, it would be a better place. I choose to lead with kindness. It's a reflection of me, not someone else. Yeah.
Thank you so much again. It's been my pleasure having you here. So, and those listening, if you get something out of this, I encourage you to visit our website. We have links to some of the treatment places and meetings, and so you can get some information there. And we'll be back in another week with another.
Thanks for coming to Real Recovery.
Yeah, realrecoverypodcast.com.
And if I can just add one more thing.
Oh, sure.
My sponsor always likes to remind me I'm not a piece of shit, and which is always reassuring. I don't know if that's reassuring to everyone out there, but you are not a piece of shit.
There you
You're
go.
not, and you don't have to be alone.
That's the best I can do on any given day. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Today I'm much better than a piece of shit, luckily.
Yeah. And you are loved. You are loved.
That's what we're hoping, Tony. We're hoping that someone's in a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they're looking for recovery and they go to our podcast and it provides comfort versus them going out and using or doing something worse.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite messages people share too is you're welcome. needed, wanted, and loved.
And we'll love you until you can love yourself. Amen.
I'm still working on that.
I love you.
I like myself a lot. I'm not sure I'm right at the love yet.
Well, I love you, and I'll love you until you do.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks to each and every one of you for lending us your ears and hearts. Your engagement is what fuels our passion and keeps this podcast thriving.
We cherish the moments we share here and hope they resonate with you. Whether you're on a daily commute, at the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself.
Make sure to head over to our website at realrecoverypodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter for the latest insights and uplifting stories from our community delivered straight to your inbox.
Click that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player too, so you can keep up with every new episode. It's your support that keeps our conversation alive and meaningful.
And if our stories have touched you, consider using the donate button on our site. Your contributions, no matter the size, are deeply appreciated. They help us continue our mission of sharing hope and healing.
Join us beyond the podcast and follow our journey on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, formerly known as Twitter. All the links are on our site, so you can stay connected and be a part of the Real Recovery community every day.
Your likes, shares, and comments not only spread the message of recovery, but also remind us that we're all in this together.
So, until we meet again, remember that recovery is a journey, not a destination, and we'll be here to accompany you every step of the way to recovery, real recovery.
Thanks for listening.